All right, 7.2, multiplying polynomials. This is going to be day 1, and we'll just see how far you guys get. For those of you that are on campus, go ahead and grab a bag of algebra tiles. I would say 1 bag per pair, and please try to keep the tiles separate from each set so that the sets kind of maintain what they have in them. They're not mixing together. Anyone who's home can click on this link in the OneNote page and go to the virtual version of the tiles. So what we're going to do, and you're going to be in your spiral for right now, what you're going to do is try and get out this pile of tiles. And I'm actually already have it prepared on the virtual one, so I'll click to that in a second. And we are going to try to make one large rectangle. So move those tiles around and try and make a rectangle. If you notice, those of you on campus, there's some like yellow laminated sheets that have kind of an edge like this. You might want to grab one of those, and we're going to use that as a frame. And here's my hint to you. When we make rectangles with these tiles, we're always going to put our biggest tile in kind of the little L-shaped corner there. So that will get you started. Work with your partner near you and try to arrange this into a rectangle. When you have done that, go ahead and come back. All right, you should have had 1x squared, 6 x's, and 8 little babies. If you move them around, you should have ended up something that looks maybe like this, maybe differently. If you're ever using these virtual tiles to make them rotate, you double click on them. And you might have had your tiles kind of lined up separately. But what we're going to practice doing is having our edges that are the same dimensions line up with each other. So what I mean by that is, let's see if I can use my mouse pointer. Here, do you see how those have the same length and width? So those can touch. So we never want edges that don't have the same dimensions to be touching each other. So you can kind of see those edges match up with each other. You'll also notice that usually our babies, our smallest tiles, are going to be kind of in that like upper right corner when we make these rectangles. And often your X tiles will be split up into 2 groups. So the biggest tile always in the corner, and the baby's kind of in the opposite corner, and that will help us all consistently have the same thing. The next thing I want you to do is try and figure out what the dimensions of that rectangle are. All right, so what I mean by that is how long is each side? So here, this side is x long, and this side is, these are each 1 long. So one way to describe the length of this rectangle is x plus 2. That's how long each edge is of that rectangle. And then on the other side, that's x, and then that is 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that other dimension is, and I'm going to get it on the other side of the little edge, that's kind of like a little border that we use there so that you can kind of see the rectangle separate from just the dimension. So when we talk about the dimension, we're talking about the length and the width, and that's going to be on the side there. If we go into OneNote, I took a screenshot there. Another way you could do it instead of drawing it is showing that this is x long. Remember, we talked about our dimensions in your toolkit, and that together, 1, 2, 3, 4, is 4 long. So we could label that as x plus 4. And this, oops, is x long, and this is 2 long. So it'd be x plus 2. That's super messy. So what you're going to be doing today for the first part of the lesson is trying to make rectangles and then figuring out the dimensions. So once I give some of the instructions, you'll probably want to pause the video and move into your OneNote. I'll distribute this if I haven't yet. And you can just do this directly into OneNote. If you're having touchscreen issues, you can just do it in your spiral. But what you're going to do is get out, like for this first one for A, you'll get out an x squared, you'll get out 3 x's, and you'll get out 2 little babies. And then you're going to sketch what you get here, if you laid it out in that little frame. And then you're also going to label the dimensions. The dimensions are the length and the width. So for the sake of that last problem, I had x squared, I had 6 x's, and I had 8. That was the sum. Sum is when you're adding things up. The product would have been x plus 2 times x plus 4. This was my length and this was my width, or vice versa. It doesn't matter which one's which. So I'm writing those as a product. Those things are being multiplied. So that's what you're going to practice here. So take a few minutes and go ahead and build these. I would do these in partnerships. I would look at this page in OneNote and then come back and I'll have the answers filled in for you. Okay, so I have the answers here. You can take a moment to check your work. And then I'll scroll up a little bit. On E, there were two different ways you could have done it. You could have had 2x plus 4 by x plus 3, or you could have had x plus 2 on one dimension and 2x plus 6 on the other dimension. So this was where we gave you the inside, we gave you the sum, and then you were trying to find the dimensions to find the product, the length and the width. On the next one, whatever you have time for, we're going to go the other direction. This time we're going to give you the dimensions, and then we are going to figure out the sum. So I'm going to do letter B on those algebra tiles online. So it's x plus 3 times 2x plus 1. X plus 3 times 2x plus 1. So let's go ahead and move all these tiles out of the way. X plus 3, these are the dimensions. I'm just moving that stuff out of the way. X plus 3 is on one side here. I'm looking at this. I have an x and I have plus 3. And then I needed 2x plus 1. So I need to get rid of one of those ones, and I'm going to bring an x from over here. So 2x plus 1. So this time we're going to put the dimensions on the edges and figure out what goes on the inside. So here I'm looking for what is x by x. That's going to be an x squared. See how those edges match up? Again, what's going to be an x by x? That's going to be an x squared. An x by a 1 is going to be an x. See how those edges are the same length? And then here, something that's 1 by x is going to be 1x. This is why I made you label your dimensions when you did your toolkit entry. And grab one more. Okay, and then in the corner, I have things up here that are the dimension of 1 by 1. So we'll fill those in, and then you want to count what you have. So you're going to be physically building this with the tiles. So I have 2 x's. No, I don't. I have 2x squareds. I have 7 x's, and I have 3. So 2x squareds, and you would sketch that on your little OneNote thing there. So 2x squared plus 7x plus 3. That would be our sum when I add it all up. So the sum is the stuff on the inside, the product are the dimensions, and the stuff on the outside. So for your purposes here, I did 2 x's on this one and a 1, and I did an x and a 3. And then we can draw in, and these are, works of art here. It's okay if they're super sketchy. These are all x's. And then I had 1, 1, 1. All right, so that's what you're doing for this page. So again, now go ahead into OneNote and do as much as you have time for. I'm not sure what you're going to be able to get done during this class period. So just do as much as you have time for, and this will help us as we move into the rest of the lesson. If you are super speedy at building all of these and sketching them and all of that business, you can keep scrolling down here in your OneNote and look at this part where it says, look at the highlighted problems. Do you see any patterns? What happens to the term outside of the parentheses? And I think many of you are going to be capable of doing that. And again, if you have time, you can go ahead and start 513 and see if you can simplify that without using tiles. Remember to please carefully clean up the tiles, and I will see you when I'm back.